Ridden by Dickey and Person. 4 is Kublai, ridden by Philip Waldron. 5, Longboat, Willie Carson. 7, Patrizio, Cash Asmussen. 8, Rising from Ireland, Gabriel Curran. 9, Seismic Wave, Brent Thompson. 10, Spicy Story, Steve Cawthon. 11, Tali Kwali, Tony Ives. And 12, I Want to Be, carrying the second colours of Sheikh Mohammed, and ridden by Greville Starkey.
Well, we've seen some great horses winning the Gold Cup in recent years. Of course, one of them was Sagara. We spoke to his owner, Gerald Oldham, the other day. The last 2 years, Gildoran, of course, ridden by different jockeys. Willie Carson won it in '83 on Little Wolf. Ardross, one of the great Gold Cup winners, twice ridden to success by Lester Piggott. Lamos, also a dual winner. Shangamutsu, and before that, the only post-war triple winner, Sagaro. And in '74, a momentous success for the Duke of Norfolk with Ragstone. So who will succeed Gildoran? Can Longboat made up for his unlucky success last year? Certainly, Willie Carson didn't have the best of breaks. Willie Carson there in the crimson colours in about 5th place there, just on the outside of the red and white check of Old Country. And you can see squeezed out there, Patrizio up there on the outside. That was where Willie lost his place, and those 2 or 3 lengths might have cost him the race.
Gildoran, the clear leader now from Destroyer. Then comes Old Country in 3rd. Longboat producing a run towards the outside, but it's Gildoran from Destroyer. Longboat, Willie Carson coming to try and challenge. Gildoran still from Destroyer, then Longboat as they race into the closing stages. Gildoran praised by Destroyer, and on the near side, Longboat putting in a tremendous run. Yaba finishing well, but Gildoran looks as though he's going to hold him. Gildoran's mother of the line. Longboat was 2nd, then came Destroyer, and Long ponged in a photo for 3rd.
Longboat, he just needed another 25 yards to win there. And, well, it's my opinion that that incident about 4.5 furlongs from home may have cost him the race. Well, of his rivals, Eastern Mystic already has a Yorkshire Cup to his credit this season, and it was last autumn that he really slipped into top gear, showing for the first time top-class form. And first time we saw it was in the Coral Newbury Autumn Cup.
2 furlongs to run now in the Coral Autumn Cup, and Insular is clear of Eastern Mystic and Lundy Lux and Stately Form. Racing down to the furlong pole, the leader is beginning to weaken. Eastern Mystic is making progress with Lundy Lux. They've got a furlong to run, and it's Insular from Eastern Mystic and Lundy Lux, 150 yards, and it's Insular being tackled by Eastern Mystic. Eastern Mystic and Insular as they race into the closing stages. Eastern Mystic and Lester Piggott just going to get up at the line. Eastern Mystic wins it from Insular 2nd.
A vintage effort that by Leicester. Don't we miss him at this Royal meeting. And here is Eastern Mystic, who looks in the think of condition. But Longboat was the anti-post favourite. Let's hear the latest market news on our way to join Jimmy and John.
And on the course, Longboat is the favourite, 11-8. Eastern Mystic, 11-4, and that is edging out all the time. It opened at 9-4, went to 5-2 almost immediately, and is now 11-4. Seismic Wave, 7-1. Spicy Story and Tali Kwali is 10-1. Bourbon Boy 20, so is Rising. I Want to Be has gone to 25-1. On 33-1, Kublai and Eridan. Patrizio is 66-1.
Well, I've never quite seen a crowd like this that's round the paddock here to see the 11 runners parade. And there's number 2. This is Eastern Mystic we're having a look at. He proved himself a tough stayer this season. His 3 races have all been very solid, winning the Yorkshire Cup in May. That was when getting the better of Seismic Wave by 1.5 lengths. But he did find Longboat too good for him in the Henry II Stakes at Sandown. He has never run over this distance, but he should be very much to his liking, I would say, on his breeding. He's by Elocutionist, and Luca Kamani has really done a job on him. He looks a picture in the paddock. In a few moments' time, he'll have the jockey of the season, Pat Eddery, in the saddle. There he is, number 2, Eastern Mystic. How well the 11 runners are taking this parade, because the sound that's coming from the people you're looking at now is something like a beehive. It really does hum, standing in the centre of the paddock. There you can see the owners, the elegant owners in their morning coats and their beautiful dresses that the ladies have on. And it's a scene that can only be seen here at Royal Ascot. There is number 5. This is Longboat. He'll be running in the colours of Mr. Hollingsworth. Well, Mr. Hollingsworth has perhaps the stud with most stamina that there is around in England at the moment. This horse we're looking at is by Welsh Pageant. He perhaps deserved to win this race more than any other. Last year he just failed to catch Gildoran in the closing stages, as we've just seen. He shows he's in great heart by winning the Henry II Stakes at Sandown last month. That was when beating Seismic Wave by 2.5 lengths. He stays forever. He loves fast ground. Willie Carson was saying in the weighing room just before the first that he hopes that not too much water's gone overnight because onto the track, because the firmer it is, the better it will be for Longboat. A really intelligent horse, and walking around the paddock here at Royal Ascot as if he owns it. You can just hear the atmosphere coming down the wires. As I was saying, it's rather like a swarm of bees. This is number 12. This is the only filly in the race, I Want to Be. She's by Roberto. She's trained at Arundel by John Dunlop, ridden by Greville Starkey. She's a pretty useful filly too. She's proved herself a very classy stayer last season, winning on 2 occasions, a handicap at Newbury, and then the Park Hill at Doncaster in September, which always takes a very good filly to win it. She also was placed in top races, notably went second in the French St Leger at Longchamp, and she's only had the 1 run this season. That was when last of the 10 runners behind Longboat in the Henry II Stakes at Sandown, but I think she's going to find a lot on that form today. I saw her in the paddock at Sandown. She looked a little bit hairy on that occasion. She hadn't lost her coat, her winter coat at all. The sunshine has really done her good since then, and I think, as I say, she's going to find a lot on that running of Sandown. Number 9. This is Seismic Wave, another one with a great chance. He's the quality horse in the race, you might say. He's already won a group race. That was the Marlin 5 Ormond Stakes at Chester last season. He also finished a gallant second in the Hardwick Stakes here at the Royal Meeting and the Grand Prix de St Cloud. So that's really solid form. He appeared to meet his match in the Henry II Stakes at Sandown, and this race perhaps could provide the key today. He was beaten a length and a half by Longboat. He seemed to want for a little stamina that day. He came with a furlong and a half to run. He was doing handsprings. I thought he was really going to cut Longboat down, but he seemed to tie up, and Longboat came back at him on the line and in fact beat him, and I'm just wondering whether he's going to see 2.5 miles out here. But a good looking horse. He's by Youth and running in the colours of Mr. Robert Sangston. Well, as ever, this, I think, race, the Gold Cup, carries as much charisma as any here, and people love to have a bet on the big race of the day. Let's go and see how much money's going on.
And there's a certain amount going on Longboat, because just as you spoke, it went to 5 to 4. Longboat 5 to 4 from 11 to 8. Eastern Mystic is 3 to 1. Seismic Wave 8 to 1. A Spicy Story and Taliquali 10 to 1. Bourbon Boy is 20 to 1. So is I Want to Be. Rising 25 to 1. Kublai 33 to 1. And Eridan has gone out to 50s. And Patrizio stays on 66 to 1.
Spicy Story, number 10, and what a lovely, intelligent head he's got. He's by Blushing Groom, and how Blushing Groom does stamp his stock. He's had a lot of class. He was the winner of the Doncaster Cup last year and placed against top horses. After running 3rd behind Valuable Witness in the Sagaro Stakes here in April, he took his chance in the Prix de Cadran at Longchamp, but he ran a dismal race, finishing last of the 6 runners, and I'm sure there was something wrong on that occasion, because he's a much better horse than that. He really looked well here, as do in fact most of the other runners, all 11 in the paddock. He's 10 to 1 in the market, and he could actually run a very big race. Steve Corthen rides him. Nobody knows their way round Ascot better than Steve now. Already has ridden 1 Gold Cup winner, and there a little kick for us from Spicy Story, just to show his well. Queen in the centre of the paddock, casting a very skillful eye over the runners. This is number 4, Kublai, trained by Jeff Lewis. In fact, Jeff has always had Kublai earmarked for the Gold Cup. Hasn't run too well in his 2 runs so far this season, and last time out finished 6th behind Longboat in that race at Sandown, the Henry II Stakes. That was last month. But he ran a super race here last year at the Royal Meeting when just beaten in the Queen's Vase. He's very much on his toes, but he's a big, strong individual. He ran a really good race over a long distance at Goodwood last year. He's 33 to 1 in the market. That's number 4, the Mount of Philip Waldron, Kublai. Captain Nicky Beaumont, you just saw briefly there. And now the people begin to think, the owners become excited, the trainers wonder if they've done the work, whether they've done enough or whether they've done too much. The jockeys will be coming in shortly, and it's always rather nice to hear the banter going on between the owners and trainers. But there are the racegoers enjoying themselves, spread out right across the lawns of both enclosures, the Royal Enclosure and Tattersall's. And I think today, because I don't know officially whether it's happened, but they thought that they might have to close the gates. There you can see the crowd spilling out down to the rails, where the 11 runners will be parading shortly. When they arrive out of the paddock, they walk down a furlong and a half, or perhaps nearly down to the 2 furlong marker, then turn and walk back. This is the long straight, or the short straight here, but believe you me, after galloping 2.5 miles, it seems endless. And this is the final bend that they'll be turning into, and they climb steadily all the way from that road, you can see. And this is when stamina really comes into play. This is when you ask for that effort that not too many horses can produce when you race beyond 2 miles. The strawberries and cream forgotten now, and the business is all horses. This is Rising, number 8, trained in Ireland by Kevin Prendergast. In fact, the only Irish invader in the field, and he's never attempted this distance before. This year he's been running over much shorter distances, and in fact he won over 1.25 miles, and then he went on to win over 1 mile and 6 furlongs. He's one of the outsiders. He's 25 to 1 in the market, and he's ridden by Gabriel Curran. As I was saying, it takes a very special type of horse to get 2.5 miles. I've known some very good handicappers, and they could only win handicaps over 1 mile and 7 to 2 miles, but as soon as they started racing over 2.5 miles, as Fighting Charlie did, a dual winner, they become exceptional. There you see Gabriel Curran in the colours, just to get in on Risling's back. And there, the Queen Mother with Miss Sarah Ferguson, Her Majesty the Queen. And back to the favourite. Just taking one turn, Buster, Major Dick Hearn's travelling head lad, just in picture now with the brown Shelby hat, gives Willie a leg into the saddle. Nobody knows Longboat better than Willie. Willie, who will have been on his back in most of his final work on those beautiful gallops of Major Dick Hearn's at West Ilsley, and I don't think there's any finer gallops in the world. Willie just gives a reassuring pat, cooling Longboat down all the time, a little whistle as you can see. But Longboat is answering to everything, just wants to get on with it, but no sweat as yet. And I think Willie would be a very worried man if he wasn't just beginning to jink up now. A reassuring pat from his lad. What a wonderful job the lads do, because when you think they're with them for 52 weeks of the year, through snow and hail and rain, and now the rewards come when you walk round in a race something like this. He's 5 to 4, and they go 7 to 2 bar him. He turns, they parade for this race, so they're wheeling in the centre of the paddock to get into their correct order. And in fact, looking out, most of the 11 runners are all behaving themselves without exception. It's rather a shame. I always think that, in fact, people are rather neglecting stamina and going for the middle distance horse, because I've always thought, and many good breeders have, that it's a much harder process to breed stamina into a horse. It takes a longer time to get that stamina to remain than it does the fast blood. The Royals are just about to leave the paddock. Down the long walk between this vast crowd and how brave they are when you think about it. So close. Hardly a breath of wind. Well, we've had a look at some of the horses. Let's go to our fashion expert, Eve Pollard, to see what she thinks about the outfits of the Royals.
Well, I think that the thrill today must be that very dramatic outfit that Sarah Ferguson's wearing. You can see now that the jacket is a plain aquamarine and her dress has a slight pattern to it, and that large sombrero has won a great applause from the crowd. The Queen in front of her in a very nice cornflower blue and white silk print with that larger hat that we were referring to before, beautifully trimmed in the same fabric. And there's Sarah Ferguson with her hair looking very naturally next to Prince Andrew. And he's got a rather fashionable waistcoat in a sort of plain chamois beige colour, very, very flattering. And she's wearing a very pretty necklace, pearls and diamonds, and winning great applause from the crowd. And she's winding up the royal party with the Kents following in the rear.
Well, the parade on in earnest now, and being led by Bourbon Boy. Walter Swinburne in the saddle, 20-1 in the market, trained at Newmarket by Michael Stout, running in the colours of Sheikh Mohammed. A really tough handicapper. We drop back to Eastern Mystic, one of the up-and-coming stayers, the Mount of Pat Edery, trained at Newmarket by Luca Kamani. Number 3, Iradan, the invader from Sweden, in fact, bred in Poland by Dakota, a horse that won the Ebor here at York a few seasons ago, and ridden by Dickia Person. Number 4, Kublai, mount of Philip Waldron, trained by Jeff Lewis, by Effervescence. Thought he looked very well, but an outsider in the field at 33-1. Parade, as I was saying, a long walk down, and there is the favourite, Longboat, in the colours of Mr. Hollingsworth. Mr. Hollingsworth, a man that has always gone in to breed a very stoutly bred horse. A non-runner, or from the morning papers, number 6 that is, so we drop back to Patrizio. Patrizio ridden by American, French-based Cash Asmussen, trained at Newmarket by Clive Britton. 66-1, but if he put his best foot forward, could cause a few red faces. Number 8, Rising, the Irish invader, trained in Ireland by Kevin Prendergast, ridden by Gabriel Curran. 25-1 in the market at the moment. Number 9, Seismic Wave, the bay horse by Youth, trained by Barry Hills, ridden by New Zealand-born Brent Thompson. I wonder if he's going to have enough stamina. He's 10-1. Spicy Story, I think he'll like the trip. The mount of Steve Cawthon, trained by Ian Balding, by Blushing Groom, 10-1 in the market, and likes Ascot. Tali Quali, number 11, trained by Henry Candy, ridden by Tony Ives, 9-1, winner of the Jockey Club Cup last year in terrific style. Has he come back this season? Could be the sleeper of the race. Last but not least, the only filly in the race, I Want to Be, 20-1, winner of the Park Hill last year. Well, if she can reproduce that form, she won't finish last. There, the crowds down onto the rails, even on the infield, as you can see, on the chase track, that is, and the hurdle race track that is used in the winter. The crowds have even overspilled out to there. The car park's filled to capacity, and here today to see one of the famous and one of the best long races in the world, the Ascot Gold Cup. Group 1, £44,688 to the winner, and what a race I think it's going to lend itself to be. Right the way down, nearly the entire length of the course they go. One complete circuit past the winning post. The race, when they get to Swindley Bottom, starts to turn on in earnest, and still another mile to run. There, back to the crowds, putting their last-minute bets on. And sometimes it can take you a good 5 to 10 minutes to get from the paddock to have a bet, or to the box that you're watching, sometimes up to half an hour. Packed in like one mass Harlequin carpet. As you can see, the colour looks absolutely wonderful from the stands, with that ribbon of beautiful lush grass, Ascot grass, all the way down. The stalls nearly down to the Golden Gates, as you can see on the left of our picture. They have that long climb up past the stands, and for the first 3 or 4 furlongs, the jockeys are fighting very hard to get their mounts relaxed, talking to them all the time, trying to get them back off the pace. And then when they get to the furlong marker just before the winning post, this is when the sound comes out and hits them, and this is when they set off all over again. This is when the jockey has to work at his hardest to really keep their mounts relaxed. Just look at the famous colours there as well, the colours of Mr. Paul Mellon, you could see standing out, carried by Spicy Story. But there you can see the crowds thronging to get back. The colours of Tali Quali, Mr. Barnett's. Nearly down to the 2 furlong marker now. Then they'll turn and walk right the way back to the winning post before the lads loose their charges to canter off. This is the time, as I was saying, that they're trying to relax their horse the whole time. But how well they've behaved. But most of these staying horses are seasoned campaigners, all 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and they've seen quite a lot of action. But it's strange that the race this year, the first time it's been open for geldings, there's only one taking its chance, and that is Auburn Boy. Just a little bit on his toes is Kublai. Philip Waldron just giving him a reassuring talk to in front of him. Iradan. And the Bourbon Boy losing nothing against the Colts, although he's a gelding. He's just dropped one back in the parade. Eastern Mystic is leading at the moment, number 2. Bourbon Boy looks very well. In fact, very often they don't look quite as well as the Colts, and I thought he stood out quite well in the paddock. Well, I've seen all of the 11 runners, or most of them. I think we've missed a couple, and shortly they'll be turning to canter right down the long straight. So why don't we now join John Hammond?
Thank you, Jimmy. And I've never seen the horses parade so far down the course for the Gold Cup. They really gave the people who didn't apply in time to get grandstand badges and who've consequently had to make do with the silver ring facilities, well, they got a really good view of the runners who went right down past the 2 furlong marker in the parade. The crowds may like the parade, the jockeys certainly don't, because with all this enormous amount of sound, the horses tend to get a bit restive. They know when they get mounted in the paddock that they're going to race very shortly, and then they get this parade which goes on for some 5 to 10 minutes, and they really want to get on with the job. Walter Swinburne on Bourbon Boy in the first colours of Sheikh Mohammed. The distinguishing blue cap worn by Greville Starkey on I Want to Be in the same ownership. Bourbon Boy only just beaten in the Doncaster Cup last year by Spicy Story. 22 to 1 from 20 to 1. He's got a bit to find with Longboat on the Sandown running in the Henry II Stakes on May the 26th, when he could finish only 8th of the 10 runners, but he didn't have the greatest of runs that day, and he went well enough the time before at York behind Eastern Mystic, went 4th on very soft ground. But at last the parade ends, the horses canter down to the start, and Longboat just going down there, then Spicy Story. Longboat coming in all the time to evens favourite. Eastern Mystic 7 to 2, Tali Quali 9 to 1, and it's 10-1 bar the 3. So the more the sun shines and the ground rides fast, the more money pours on Longboat, who really relishes these conditions. We saw he was unlucky in the race last year, possibly not to beat Gildoran. Well, Gildoran not in the race this year, and Longboat would probably win if reproducing last year's running. There's every reason to think that he's right at his best, because he won the Henry II Stakes over half a mile shorter, beating, let me remind you, Seismic Wave into second place, Eastern Mystic third, Tali Quali fourth, Kublai sixth, Bourbon Boy eighth, Patrizio ninth, and I Want to Be 10th. He beat them all over 2 miles, and I'm sure that his trainer, Major Dick Hearn, has timed the preparation to perfection as always, and there's every chance that Longboat will make up for what has been a very unlucky meeting so far for West Ilsley, with just to cap it all, after all the seconds that they'd suffered with Bedtime and Trojan Prince, that Vouchsafe should be disqualified after winning last night. Number 8 is Rising, the Irish challenger. He came over to England for the Ormond Stakes, the Group 3 Ormond Stakes, over 1 mile and 5 furlongs at Chester at the beginning of May. Could finish only 4th of the 8 runners behind Brunico. Brunico, incidentally, runs here tomorrow in the final race of the meeting, the Queen Alexandra Stakes, over 2 miles 6. But Rising possibly racing over a distance short of his best at Chester, 1 mile 5. This is almost 1 mile further, and the ground there was desperately soft, particularly on that day, and it was a real test of stamina, and very different conditions on this fast ground here. Number 11, Tali Quali, shop winner last year of the Jockey Club Cup at Newmarket at the beginning of October, the Group 3 race, when he beat Old Country and Life Pierre at odds of 25-1 with Spicy Story, the favourite on that occasion, back in 4th place. Tali Quali, 4th behind Longboat at Sandown. And let's have a look at the betting.
And Tali Quali is on 9-1. Longboat is even money favourite. Eastern Mystic 7-2. Tali Quali 9s. Seismic Wave 10-1. Spicy Story has gone to 11-1. I Want to Be is 20-1. Bourbon Boy 22-1. Rising 33-1. Kublai 40-1. Eridan 50-1. And Patrizio 66-1.
Seismic Wave carries the colours of Mr. Robert Sangster, successful in the last 2 years with Gildoran, but whereas Gildoran was really an out-and-out stayer, it remains to be seen where the Seismic Wave is. I remember 2 years ago when he ran in the French Derby, ran well for a long way. It was felt he didn't get the trip, but that was 2 years ago, and he's shown he gets 2 miles, or near enough 2 miles, because he was second to Longboat at Sandown over that trip. But as Jimmy pointed out, he really did look the winner when he came up very smoothly. And he's got another half mile to go here, but it's a brave try, a bold attempt to win the race 3 years running for Robert Sangster and Barry Hills. The stands packed to capacity, very difficult for a lot of the people here to get a good view. A lot of them are taking their chance and watching from the lawn, where they won't see very much unless they're very tall, but they're almost all in over to Peter.
And they're running. And nobody very anxious to make it in the early stages. Patrizio on the wide outside, just taking it up. Patrizio going on from Longboat over on the far side. Eastern Mystic just in behind him comes Spicy Story. And then I Want to Be, Seismic Wave over on the far rail, and then Eridan. And it's Patrizio taking him along from Longboat and Eastern Mystic. Just behind Eastern Mystic is Seismic Wave. Then I Want to Be the filly, and then Tali Quali, Spicy Story over on the far rail. Eridan, the Swedish Hope, then the Hope of Ireland on the inside rising, and behind them Kublai, and finally Bourbon Boy, Patrizio, as they come down with 2 furlongs to run towards the winning post on the first circuit. In the lead from Eastern Mystic and Longboat disputing second. Behind them come Spicy Story, and then I Want to Be and Seismic Wave, and Tali Quali and Eridan, and on the far side of Eridan on the rail is rising, and then comes Kublai, and finally Bourbon Boy, the only gelding in the race, as Patrizio races up to the winning post on the first circuit in the lead. From Eastern Mystic in second, Longboat third. They're going a pretty good gallop. Spicy Story 4, 5 and 6 are I Want to Be and Seismic Wave, then Tali Quali, then Eridan, and rising matching strides, then Kublai, and finally Bourbon Boy as they begin to swing right-handed, and just over a mile and a half to run now in the 1986 Gold Cup. And as they begin to run down towards Swinley Bottom, Eastern Mystic takes it up from Patrizio, then Longboat, then Spicy Story and I Want to Be, and then Seismic Wave. Then comes Tali Quali and Eridan, and rising behind rising is Kublai, making a little bit of ground towards his outside. Bourbon Boy still the back marker of the 11 runners, and Eastern Mystic making it from Patrizio, Longboat, Spicy Story, I Want to Be on the inside. Then is Seismic Wave, then Eridan and Tali Quali, and rising, and then Kublai and Bourbon Boy. So Pat Edery, the leading rider in the Ritz Club Charity Trophy, with a clear advantage at the moment from Patrizio. Then the favourite Longboat on the outside of Spicy Story, Eridan, and young Dickian Person making a little bit of ground. The Swedish rider on the outside, having his first ride in England, gone up into 5th, with Eastern Mystic still the leader as they swing right-handed. Eastern Mystic from Longboat in second, then comes Patrizio, then Eridan for Sweden, going right up on the outside now of Longboat. Then comes Spicy Story, Seismic Wave making ground towards the outside, then is rising for Ireland. Eastern Mystic though with the advantage from Longboat and Eridan, then Patrizio. Then comes Rising. Got 6 furlongs to run now, and still Eastern Mystic with the advantage from Longboat, Eridan, Rising and Patrizio. Just in behind them, Kublai making a little bit of ground. Bourbon Boy making ground from the rear now. Just relegated Tali Quali the last place. They're past the 5 furlong pole, and Eastern Mystic in the lead. From in second place, the favourite Longboat. Then comes Spicy Story, Kublai and Rising as they race now towards the home turn. Eastern Mystic being pressed and passed now by Longboat. Spicy Story comes next, then Patrizio, and then Seismic Wave making ground in behind the leaders as they turn for home now. It's Longboat, the favourite, Willie Carson from Eastern Mystic. Then comes Spicy Story on his outside. Seismic Wave is next. Behind Seismic Wave is Patrizio. At the 2 furlong pole, it's Longboat in the lead now from Spicy Story, Eastern Mystic. Then comes Seismic Wave, Patrizio and Tali Quali. Coming down to the furlong pole, and Longboat stretching away. He's not going to make any mistake this time. Willie Carson well clear, and Longboat in the Gold Cup from Eastern Mystic and Spicy Story as they race up towards the line. A famous victory for the Hollingsworth colours, and Willie Carson. Longboat wins the Gold Cup in emphatic style. It's a photo for second between Eastern Mystic and Spicy Story. 4th was Patrizio, then Tali Quali, and behind Tali Quali was Seismic Wave, and then Kublai and Bourbon Boy and Rising and I Want to Be. And in fact, the Swedish challenger, Eridan, is last, but no doubt about the winner. Number 5, Longboat, owned by Mr. Dick Hollingsworth, trained by Dick Hearn and written by Willie Carson. And it's a photograph for second place, a photo between number 2, Eastern Mystic, owned by Major R.W. Harden, trained by Luca Cromani and written by Pat Edery. And number 10, Spicy Story, first runner in the Gold Cup for Mr. Paul Mellon, trained by Ian Balding and written by Steve Cawthon. So Longboat has made amends for that second last year when he so gamely failed to beat Gildoran, and finally Dick Hollingsworth, who was second with Torpid in 69, third with Sea Anchor in 76, has won the Ascot Gold Cup. But here's how the even money favourite won the 1986 renewal.
And what a resounding success it was. Willie Carson took no chances at all today, always in the first three, always had the leaders in his sights, and before they came into the straight, he decided to go. And when he went, he went. Eastern Mystic, who'd been in front, came under pressure, found nothing. Spicy Story came with a run and flattered for a moment. Tarle Quale also moved into fourth place here, flattered for a moment. But now there was only one possible outcome to the Gold Cup, because Longboat went 4 lengths clear, proving himself to be an outstanding stayer and an outstanding racehorse. He stays, he gallops, and he's made up for last year's unlucky defeat in no uncertain fashion. This was a brilliant success in what was unquestionably one of the fastest run Gold Cups we've seen for a very, very long time. 6, 8 lengths he's put between himself and his rivals now. Spicy Story and Eastern Mystic battling on gamely for the minor placing, but there was only one winner of the Gold Cup, and that was Longboat.
So accompanied by Buster Haslam on the right third, Dick Hearn's travelling head lad. Longboat returns to the winner's circle, and Willie Carson wins a second Gold Cup for the stable, having won in 1983 on Little Wolf. The official runner-up, number 2, Eastern Mystic, owned by Major R.W. Harden, trained by Luca Cumani, ridden by Pat Edery, and third, number 10, Spicy Story, owned by Mr. Paul Mellon, trained by Ian Balding, and ridden by Steve Cawthon. And there, Dick Hollingsworth greeting this winner that he bred, of course, Welsh Pageant, out of Pirogue by Reliance for second. And what a marvellous moment for him. Second, as I say, with Torpid in 1969, third with Sea Anchor in 76, and now a 5-length winner of this great prize. Number 9 of the season for Dick Hearn, and a 40th winner of the season for Willie Carson. Willie, who now enters the calculations for the Ritz Club Charity Trophy. He's the only rider with more than one winner, apart from Pat Edery. Pat Edery leads with 3, Willie Carson now 2, and a long list of honourable singles. Oh, this fine horse comes good at the time that really matters. A gallant winner of the Henry II Stakes at Sandown. Eastern Mystic met him on £3 better terms today, but once Longboat hit the front, he had no chance with him. Possible.
And number 5, Longboat, even money favourite. Eastern Mystic, 7-2, and third, number 10, Spicy Story, 11-1. The win tote £2, places £1.30, £1.40, and £2.10, and the dual forecast £2.90.
Great Gold Cup winning performance. A great Gold Cup winning performance, that. And the winning time, in fact, was 4 minutes 22.11 seconds, which, in fact, surprisingly, is almost 4 seconds outside Gildoran's record of 2 years ago. Well, it was a great race to watch, reminiscent almost in a way of the great King George VI of a few years back, insofar as it was a great gallop from the word go, and, well, a wonderful race to watch, as Jimmy, I'm sure, would agree.
I agree, Julian. It's one of the nicest Gold Cups I've seen, I think. Pat was going to make it a race, and he made it a race. When he got to the 1.5 mile start over the far side, he started to turn the pace on, and they quickened up gradually from there on in. And I love to see that. When horses finish like that, I mean, it makes your heart warm, I think. Longboat's always been one of my favourites.
Well, Willie didn't take any chances today, and we can pick it up at about the halfway stage of the race. Willie was a little way back last year, but here he's in third place and with everything in his sight.
Yes, Eastern Mystic has gone here, Pat. You can just see him. He's not going all that fast at the moment here, but he's got a nice gallop, and he gradually starts to let him lengthen now. Patrizio with Cash Asmussen's up there second, but there Willie says, right, he said, I'm going to Spicy Story also in there, running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th. But Willie's going to, he knows what his danger is. He knows that Eastern Mystic is the one he's got to beat. And
Scandinavians, of course, has gone close there.
Yeah, I think he's running sort of over a trip much further than he wants, so he would be going. He's a mile and a half horse, he's one sort of out there, so he's got a bit of guns left, but he soon backpedals in a moment when Eastern Mystic turns it on, as Pat's doing now. Just watch Pat's, he's still sitting nice and high on him. You know he's got this colt nicely relaxed, but you can just see him starting to work on him. He's saying, come on, Eastern Mystic, let's make this some race. But now we drop back to the winner, Willie. Look at Willie's hands there, just above the horse's withers. Longboat's settled and he's lengthening, he's letting his old head go out, his ears are pricked. Now Pat's turning it on. He's right over the back by the old mile, he's well into the old mile, and he's asking this Eastern Mystic to travel. He says, well, I'm going to see if anything can stay in the race better than I can. But Willie's up to it. Willie's beginning to just ask Longboat to get into the race. Patrizio's still hanging on in there, and Steve's, he's poaching a little bit of a run there too on Spicy Story. But
Brent Thompson puts his nose into the picture here on Seismic Wave, moves into fourth place, just flattered for a moment.
But the three that's going to be in the firing line, they've made their break and gone for it. But as you say, Seismic Wave is up to it and he's hanging on to their tails. Spicy Story I thought was going to figure strongly here, but Willie's gone for home and he says, now let's make a race of it, and away he goes. He's got the rail, which is a big help after 2.5 miles, but just look at Longboat length, and he's on the right leg and he's giving everything that Willie's asking for. But what I was very impressed with, in fact, was the way that the second horse, Eastern Mystic, was headed by Spicy Story, and then he's fought back to take second place right on the line again. But Patrizio's come back in the race, which is, unbelievable the way he's gone out and come back into the race. But Willie's, he's home now. He's got 5 lengths of light between him and the second and the third. But what a lovely win. As I was saying before, I think a well-deserved one, because he ran a super race last year, and a very truly Gold Cup horse.
Looked a very long 5 lengths to me, Jimmy, didn't it? Yeah.
It did a bit, actually, didn't it? But I should think it looked a long way to Willie when he had that little spot over his left shoulder. But look at how Pat Eddery's just got back up on the line again to get second place. But
well, we've got an interesting situation here because it's the richest race of the meeting, worth 44,000, and yet it's not fashionable to win Gold Cups, and yet it's been a life's ambition in a way for Mr. Dick Hollingsworth, who breeds these horses, breeds horses to stay, and I'm sure this will be one of the great days in his life.
I think so. He's a lovely man to ride for, Julian. I had a lot of luck for him, actually. He had a lovely old mare years ago called Cutter, and she was an awkward ride, and I rode her for him at Newbury, and she was one of his foundation mares. And I think it was the John Porter I won on at Newbury. But I rode for him a lot when Joe Mercer couldn't, and he's a pleasure to put his colours on.
He's a man who really, winning the race has been, in a way, more important than anything else, because sometimes nowadays we gear racing to the breeding industry and the future of the breed. All he wants to do really is A1 to breed a Derby winner and B2 to breed a Gold Cup winner, isn't he?
He'll get a Derby winner too, there's no doubt about it, because I think that at the moment we're in this phase of terrific middle distance bloodlines, and one day we're going to burn them out, and they're not going to get the mile and a half. And along will come Mr. Hollingsworth with his very solid, stout, staying breed, and he'll be very much in demand. I mean, to be truthful, if ever he opened his stud up to the public, if any of some of those mares came on for sale, goodness knows what they'd fetch. They really are good individuals. And
anniversary celebrations in the parish of Exning, where Dave Tom trains, of course. And that takes us on to another real speed event. It's the Kingstand Stakes, runners and riders from Peter.
And number 1 is Amigo Loco, ridden by Simon Whitworth. 2 is Double Schwartz, Pat Eddery. 3, Petrovich, Brent Thompson. 4,